to the metal when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what we can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say this before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday or Tuesday, excuse me, everybody. It was a holiday week, and we're ready to jump right into everything. And apologies on being about a minute late this morning. Your boy actually moves freight as well on top of this, and I'm not just a pretty face out there in the industry, but we're going to looks like we're going to be doing a little bit of a pivot today. It looks like my guest is having some technical difficulties on their end here. So we're going to be rocking a solo show, and we're going to be doing more of kind of like a state of freight style of show today. And again, the beauty of every time I'm bringing you guys my opinion on this, at least from my perspective, is A, I have a lot of experience inside of this industry as a broker, and B, I am actually building a freight brokerage as we speak, right? So a lot of the strategies and discussions and everything that we talk about, you guys, is what I'm doing inside of my day-to-day out there. So, a couple of big stories that have been in the news as of late, obviously with the ELP that's going on out there, and then tariffs as well. There's, some stuff going on behind the scenes as well that's going on. And, from our perspective, there's a lot of noise that's happening. And from my seat, you guys, and my kind of like my correlation to how this is affecting the freight market is it's not. Like, it's not affecting the market at all. I didn't see any real tightening of capacity around the holidays like you normally would out there, but it's seemingly, there's still a lot more supply than demand out there, you guys. So I think this is going to continue throughout the rest of the year. I really do. I don't see any real change unless, at this point, here's what I'm confident on. I think because again, you see all the posts out there about when's the market going to change, when are things going to get better. I like realistically, here's my best guess at this point. We're going to leave on a Friday. Everything's going to seemingly be okay. Monday morning, we're going to walk in and there's going to be no trucks out there, and everybody's going to be banging their heads and wondering why. And there's just going to be a mass exodus from the industry. I just feel like that's the most logical guess at this point, because a lot of the data that you're seeing out there and a lot of what I'm hearing out there, there's just not a lot changing at the end of the day. And I'm cold calling shippers every single day. And I believe in cold calling is the most effective sales strategy inside of transportation, way more than email and way more than cold DMs and everything else. I just feel like I get the most bang for my buck when I'm out there calling, whether it be 40, 50, 60 companies a day, whatever that number is that you choose. I feel like there's a lot more bang for your buck in doing that than trying to curate a bunch of emails out there and get no response. But my response, from a lot of the prospects that I have and a lot of the people that I'm talking to is it's slow. And when you hear that, it's one of those situations where it's like, all right, well, what's slow? What sectors are you going after? And, where we play, you guys, we specialize in open deck and heavy haul. Okay. Flatbed, step decks, Conestogas, that's where we play. And we're kind of at the front of the line for how the overall economy, I think, performs, right? Because if building is down, if new construction is down, existing construction, all of that stuff is slow, there's not a lot of stuff happening down market from there, right? And I view it as there's a stable amount of business that's going on in the industry, but there's not a surplus. And from what I'm seeing right now, and we're kind of coming up in the end, of the flatbed season here, you guys. We got pretty much this month and end October, And, then that's when the ground starts to freeze and everything else. And a lot of those big projects go away for the year, at least for everything in the Northern Hemisphere of the United States. And, I look at it is like nothing happened this year, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if what we're going through right now kind of trickles along into early 2026 as well. And I think that at that time, we need to start looking at what are the decisions that are being made in the White House. Was that enough time to actually create meaningful change? And I truly think the one thing that would actually spur some confidence out there in purchasing is going to come in the from interest rates. I think if the Fed, who is not actually associated with the government, for those of you who don't know, you can research that all you want, but it's the truth. If the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, I think that will be a positive sign of, like, that's how a lot of business owners are going to look at, do they want to take on the risk of going out, buying more stuff, buying more, and whatever that looks like, right? I think like that's a big catalyst on like actually pushing the freight market forward, because it's like, it doesn't matter where you get your freight rates out there right now. If you use Truck Stop, if you use DAT, if you use sorry, I was going to say Green Screens. I just, it's just sad place in my heart that I don't see that logo everywhere. But they have a great opportunity being in the Triumph family of companies over there. But whether you get your rates from any of those, you guys, there's no real indicator on what you should be changing your pricing strategy at all. I think that from my perspective, the way that I'm seeing things, you should be very confident to give your customers the exact same pricing for at least the next, I will say, through the end of this year. Remove any potential holidays and stuff like that from there, where you might see some tightening of capacity around that time. But at the end of the day, you guys, it doesn't matter where you get your rates from right now. I don't feel that if you've been moving a lane for a while, I would keep that rate at that exact same rate for as long as you possibly can out there. And you got to kind of weather this, right? Because I think the big thing we really got to look for here, you guys, is if the Feds actually reduce interest rates. And if they do, I think that will be a potential tipping point. I'm not going to go as far as saying like that's going to be the thing that changes things, but I think that that's a very positive sign for like a potential recovery. But that doesn't also fix the excess capacity that is in the market. And, anytime trucking's in the national news, there's always there's a driver shortage push. And anybody who's actually operated inside of this industry understands how inherently false that actually is. To break it down into simple terms, you guys, it is supply and demand. All right. It always has been supply and demand out there, and it will always be supply and demand. And as long as there is more trucks than there is freight out there, it will pose as a challenging freight market. Okay. The rates will continue to remain low. And again, it's like, that's the beauty of the free market at the end of the day. I think that a lot of individuals out there are just maybe miss basic econ and kind of overlook that. But when we're in an industry that is transportation, there's only so much freight that is out there. And especially when we're in a somewhat of a normal freight economy. Yes, rates are low, but I want you all to probably start approaching it like this. And again, I'm not advocating for anybody to go out of business, or I don't want to be abundantly clear about that. But until the demand for freight increases and the supply of trucks decreases, there's going to be no real meaningful change out there. Now, there could be a spike or a drop in freight rates that could happen, a little bit, but that's where we're at, you guys. And then I'm not going to sit here and blame anybody for saying like, oh, there's a driver shortage. We all know that there's not a driver shortage. And again, I just look at it is we're looking for something that's going to make us feel better. And I'm not going to be the guy who's going to come up here and try and sell you guys on anything, right? Because like I'm out here trying to survive just like the rest of you. And I also look at it is like in times like this, because like we're going to be faced with something like this again, right? And I look at it is like, how can you improve during this time? And again, I am like I said, we're a niche-based broker. open deck, heavy haul. That's our jam. That's where we stay. And I always encourage everybody to look at that as a way to operate. And I do that because of the conversations that I actually have out there when we're cold calling. It gets us noticed a lot more than just being a general freight broker, you guys. And I get a lot more information out of my cold calls when I'm reaching out to individuals and, I'm asking them about it, right? I'm asking them about their operation. And if they're primarily LTL or their majority of their freight is dry van, they have a little need for a flatbed, I walk away from those opportunities because that doesn't fit inside of what I'm trying to build in my company right now. And from my perspective, I'm going after volume at this time, right? Like I'm going after repeatable and scalable business. I'm going to be able to more clearly identify those prospects when I'm talking to them because I know what I'm going after. And I feel like those individuals out there who say they'll do everything it's kind of like multitasking, right? Like nobody's good at multitasking, no matter how you want to say it. You're just doing multiple things shitty. All right. I will be the one to tell you that if nobody's told you that. Right. And that's why it's I feel like you can go out there and really build a sustainable business by just doing one thing for an extended period of time. And I just talked about this the other week, right? So just a brief recap. If your freight brokerage isn't doing at least 50% of the $270 billion in available dry van freight that's out there, you don't need to be doing anything else. Reefer freight is at 60 billion or 80 billion or something like that as an overall freight market, and flatbeds 50 to 60 billion. All right. So why do you need to do multiple things? All right. Honestly, I think we hear a lot of these numbers and we can't actually comprehend how large that actually is. And again, you guys, if you build $1 billion company, which is fucking astronomical, a $50 million company is an astronomical company and stuff like that, that's such a small percentage of the market share. So that's why I feel like in times like this, when opportunities might not be plentiful, you might want to look at how can you rein it in and just become undeniably better than everybody else out there competing with you. And that's just the strategy that we're taking and we've taken out there is we're going after one thing. We're in a very targeted market that we're going after inside of flatbed, and that's where we're going to stay. And we're going to stay that way when the market increases and everything else. And we're just going to slowly chip away at this because at the end of the day, you guys, I can't sit here and say when things are going to get better. I can teach you guys how to read freight markets. And that's hopefully something that I'm working on behind the scenes here to be able to deliver to you guys, to maybe give you some earlier insight as to when things are going to change. But I feel like a lot of us out there right now with where things are, they're not going to change until a mass exodus of carriers leave the market. All right. And brokers too, at the end of the day. I just don't see any meaningful change happening in the foreseeable future. And that's why if you're making money on some freight right now, do whatever it takes to service that customer, even if that means losing on some loads and everything else, because I guarantee you it is only a matter of time before myself or others who think like me are prospecting your company, your customers, and hoping you don't take $100 loss or a $200 loss to move a shipment. Hoping, because that's what opens up the door for us. And by the 5th time I move a shipment with your customer, they will forget your existence. All right. That is the level of intensity that I bring to this every single day. And I know a lot of sharks out there who are absolute killers, who probably make me look like a fucking Boy Scout with the way that I think, but they're out there just hoping. So that as we're kind of navigating through this market, if you're going to hesitate to take a loss, it's only a matter of time before somebody better gets in there who will actually service your customers at all costs to make sure that freight moves out there. So that's my little micro rant here on what I think is going to happen in the freight market here for the rest of the year. But let's break down some articles, you guys. I think this came out, a lot of stuff kind of gets buried around the holiday weekend, and that's why I think a lot of articles come out around that time. Is Sonny Sharma, my man. Good to see you. Corey Buchan, happy Taco Tuesday, everyone. Brad Reinhardt over on LinkedIn, happy Tuesday to you as well. And if you guys want to see Brad, and hell, if you want to see me out here in Arizona, he's going to be out here with the LTNA conference. You guys should hit him up. I may or may not be, speaking and doing my show from that event, but we'll get to that as we draw closer. this article came out, and I think it's very interesting. I think that with where a lot of the current administration out there, you guys, a lot of the stances that they are taking just essentially follow party lines, all right, at the end of the day, because it does not matter what this current administration does. There's going to be people out there that hate it, just like the previous administration. It doesn't matter what they did, even if it was good, there's going to be people out there that are going to hate it. So this article came from ttnews.com. Trump tariffs ruled illegal, but left in place for now. Federal Circuit Court questions the president's emergency powers. And like, again, I'm not a lawyer at all. And, again, I always like to say, I went to public school. How does a court rule something illegal, but like let it go on? I don't understand that headline out there at all. But most of the president's tariffs were ruled illegal by a federal appeals court that found he exceeded his authority in imposing them. But the judges left the levies, let the levies stay in place while the case is subject to further review. The appellate court on August 29th upheld an earlier ruling by the Court of International Trade that the president wrongfully invoked an emergency law to issue tariffs, but the appellate judge sent the case back to the lower courts to determine if it applied to everyone affected out there. It was a 7-4 decision that it could extend the suspense over whether the president's tariffs will ultimately stand. The case has been expected to next go to the Supreme Court for a final ruling, and the administration could now turn to the justices who have largely backed the president. The White House did not immediately respond to that. Trillions of dollars of global trade are embroiled in the legal fight. A final ruling tossing the president's tariffs would upend his much of his trade deals. The administration would also be forced to contend with demands to refund tariffs that were already paid. In its May 30th ruling, the Court of International Trade found the president improperly used a 1977 emergency powers law to impose broad tariffs out there. And then the August 29th order allows the administration to continue to enforce the contested policies while it's in action here. Excuse me. And then challenging to the tariffs were led by a small group of businesses and separate coalition of, ironically, Democratic-led states. Again, you guys just follow the party lines on a lot of this stuff. They argued that the president wrongfully invoked it. The law grants the president authority over a variety of financial transactions on emergency basis. The ruling applies to Trump's liberation global tariffs that were set at a 10% baseline out there and have been in effect for months to address the U.S. trade deficits. The decision also affects the levies on Mexico, China, and Canada that Trump were already justified as the ongoing fentanyl crisis in the U.S. And, I look at it as I'm out, like, again, I am unapologetically America first on everything. And I know that there needs to be a hard line in the sand on a lot of this stuff. And, from my opinion, we shouldn't be subsidizing the entire world and then like not benefit from that. I've been very critical of the president's handling of a lot of this in the sense of like, I hate the flip-flopping. I hate that like at 9 o'clock one day, it could be at 20%. And then, he reads a tweet or something like that and fucking it goes up to 60%. I think that's highly irresponsible out there from the president. So, but I also think like in due time, and again, I'm doing ongoing research on this. I think that a lot of you who listen to this show probably already follow Jason Miller. But I would highly recommend following a guy like Jason Miller. You might not agree with everything that he says, but the guy does research, you guys. Like, that's not an emotional opinion that he puts out there. He is out there researching this, and he's opposed to them. I respect it because I've had Jason on the show a few times, and there's some other guys out there on social media that are against it, that are not emotionally responding. It's doing thorough research on a lot of these topics, and then they go out there and put their concern. And, there are some things out there that are concerning, because I feel like from my perspective, a lot of this rebuilding and reindustrializing the United States, I think if more people could actually comprehend that this is a 20 or a 30-year strategy, I think it would make a lot more sense to a lot of individuals. But as a society today, we can only think in terms of 20 and 30 seconds, i.e. what's cracking on TikTok and fucking Instagram Reels and everything else. that I think that we have a hard time kind of seeing past it. And I look at it from my perspective in today's terms, it sucks and it's going to be rocky here for a while. But I think like if you push it out over a 20 or a 30-year term and you look at it, this could very much benefit us. And I look at it, and a lot of you who are working in transportation during COVID, you understand the bullwhip effect of the transportation freight market that happened when if another country shuts down, it could potentially cut us off. And I don't know if any of you guys follow history or anything like that, but I fancy myself as a somewhat of a, I don't want to call it a history buff, but I enjoy reading. And if you go back and you read anything on historical warfare, what's the first thing they cut off, you guys? Supply lines, right? So if you want to think out 20 to 30 years into the future and the potential of industrializing the United States of America, I think it is highly responsible for a country to control their supply chain. I think that building factories here for critical components, i.e. medicine, stuff like that, whatever the technology evolves into, we should have full control over that. We shouldn't have that in control of any potential adversaries that are out there. And I'm not here to argue geopolitical events that are going on in the world right now. I'm just talking about this from a complete supply chain transportation stance. I'm a fan of it because I feel like it will force companies to build here in the United States of America, and we will regain control of our critical supplies that we need to survive in the event something were to pop off in a global perspective. And I think if you start looking at it from that perspective, and again, remove the figurehead, all right? I understand how people despise the current president. I don't despise him, but I understand and I can see why people do. I look at it as if you actually look it out from a long-term perspective, I think it's a very good move for us as a country as a whole. Is it going to have some short-term pain? Yes, it is. Is there automation, AI, and a bunch of stuff that we're going to be up against? Fucking right there is, you guys. But I feel like at the end of the day, unless we control ourselves, which we've kind of gotten away from for the last 30, 40 years, I don't know if that's going to be beneficial moving forward out there. So I think that, again, if we're going to tie this into the U.S. freight market as a whole, wouldn't more manufacturing happening here in the United States lead to more truckloads? Again, I went to public school, you guys, but I look at it as that could be a benefit for our industry out there in the whole. So I would take that for what it's worth, you guys. But again, check this out. It's on ttnews.com. They had a really good article on that. I would read that. Tariffs is going to be a main talking point out there for the foreseeable future, probably for the next 3.5 years, because that's how much longer the current administration is going to be in office. Now, the next thing that came out, and I was talking to my really good friend. I'm gonna have him on the show later on this month, but my good buddy Adam Wingfield, him and I were talking about this because I had put out that show. It was either last week or the week before on the ELP, you guys. And this article is from the JOC.com. It's the DOT presses states to enforce the ELP rules that were out there. California, New Mexico, and Washington will lose access to FMCSA funding unless those states adopt and enforce the ELP requirement for truck drivers. Sean Duffy said states don't get to pick and choose which federal safety rules to follow. Duffy said at a press conference in DC, Duffy gave the states 30 days to adopt this or lose access to the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program funds. The Department of Transportation sent notices to California, New Mexico, and Washington, opening a process that would freeze millions of dollars in funds distributed out there. California received $30 million in funds. I think Gavin Newsom probably received those. But anyways, in 2024, Washington received $9.8 million and New Mexico about $6.7 million, according to the FMCSA. It's my hope that these states will understand the common sense nature of what we're doing out there. The states did not respond to it. And then obviously, so we've all seen the video of this, what happened in the state of Florida, the lives that were lost out there. And then it also has come out that driver was pulled over in the state of New Mexico, and he had passed the ELP he had passed it from the state of New Mexico, but they had also admitted that they didn't actually administer it, I believe. But I look at it as if you've watched that body cam footage at all, and if you've actually worked inside of this industry for a while, based on the video that I saw there, and again, the driver shouldn't have been here because it has came out that he was here illegally. And then we're not talking about any of that stuff leading up to this, but I do think that's an important caveat that, again, the driver was proven to not be here legally. Therefore, he probably shouldn't have been on the road. But again, we can't look at the ELP and then look at any driver who is safely and legally driving on the road with a CDL who might be an immigrant. We can't look at them as like all of a sudden and target them for that, right? But if you listen to that, the guy's English was fine in that video, all right? I brokered 20s of thousands of truckloads in my career, you guys. I've heard a lot of language in this industry. That driver spoke fine. And I look at it as my like, if there's going to be an ELP out there, a federal, I don't know if they called it mandate, just a federal like law out there that's going to come down, you guys, every state has to follow it equally. Okay. Because like they had said that that driver had, failed in the state of Florida. And again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but maybe during, being under duress and the stress of being in an accident, maybe it, caused some undue side effects of him not being able to fully comprehend, right? Like we've all been anxious before and everything else. I'm not here to argue anything other than the state of Florida said he failed, but the state of New Mexico, and then you see the body cam footage out there, showed that under a controlled environment, he seemingly spoke fine English to be out there, which wouldn't give me any apprehension on their ability to properly read road signs and everything else and operate. So again, it's like, if we're going to have this out here, there has to be a set 10-step process that needs to be administered from all 50 states. All right. There cannot be any party lines in any of this stuff. And that's what I don't want to see happen. I don't want to see that go down like that, because then again, you guys, the motoring public is at risk here. But first and foremost, we got to stop their ability to even get here to potentially, and then that's another thing too, you guys, and we talked about this on the show, right? Like there's states out there that don't actually require you to show the documents that you're here legally and you have the right paperwork to get a CDL and shit like that. So it's like, I feel like, and again, I said this, the FMCSA, DOT, Sean Duffy, you need to look at the CDL schools and the DMVs who are issuing these to ensure that this shit is being followed, because I feel like that is leading to a lot of this stuff out there. And until that changes and until there's subjectiveness that can go on, you guys, it's going to follow party lines. And I don't see anything changing from this. I hope that's not the case. I hope things will improve. But at the end of the day, you guys, I'm just calling balls and strikes as I see them right now. And if that doesn't change, there isn't going to be any real difference. And then it's just going to turn out to just a bunch of people creating a bunch of posts out there that didn't lead to anything. So that's where it needs to start. And I'm going to continue to talk about this on this show, you guys, because I truly want to bring a subjective viewpoint to it and not bring it just as a hatred to somebody because they may not look like you and I out there. But that article, you guys, joc.com. As always, you guys, the links to these articles that we break down will be uploaded into the show notes as well. So hell, you guys don't even have to Google this shit. Just go to the show notes and click on the link out there. And if you've made all of that effort, do your boy a solid. Rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, or hell, even subscribe to the show if you haven't done that yet as well. Because at the end of the day, you guys, if you saw value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything, ayy.